The Parkers, The Age of Synthetic Dawn, Pakai Izu, Hicheng Liming no Zidai, Episode 5, Unsteady Giants, Dai Gaigua, Puanding na Gyojin Tachi. Nobody had told them it would feel like this. The launch tubes swallowed all three frames simultaneously. The Vanguard, the Aegis, the Cyber Viper, and the world became force and noise, and the specific, disorienting shock of a system that had been designed for bodies that would never age, but had never before been asked to pilot something that weighed 200 tons. Inside the Vanguard's cockpit, Amin Parker experienced the neural link at full deployment for the first time, and understood immediately that understanding something and experiencing it were two entirely different categories of knowledge. The G-force hit him like a wall. The HUD exploded with simultaneous data. Altitude readings, threat vectors, fuel cell pressure indicators, structural integrity percentages, all of it arriving at once, all of it demanding priority, none of it waiting. His hands found the control levers and pulled, and the Vanguard responded, but not the way his body expected. There was lag. A fraction of a second between his intention and the machine's execution, the specific delay of 200 tons of metal, learning to trust, the signals coming through the neural headband. It was enough. The left thruster fired at a different intensity than the right. The Vanguard began to spin. In the Aegis, Mary Parker was falling. Not spinning, falling. The white and gold frame was dropping too fast, its enormous weight pulling it toward the plasma transit highway, 400 feet below, with the indifferent urgency of gravity that did not care what the armor was worth. She pulled at the steering controls. The machine responded sluggishly. The Aegis had been built for defense, for absorption, for holding ground, and it moved with the specific, deliberate resistance of something that had not been designed for quick adjustments. "Guide my hands," she said, not to the cockpit, to something larger. She pulled again. The Aegis dropped another 50 feet. The Cyber Viper was heading directly toward a plasma transit highway. Cassandra's HUD showed 17 simultaneous intrusion points, all of them flashing red, all of them generating secondary alert cascades that generated their own alerts. Her hands were moving across the electronic warfare console. Fast, precise, the hands of someone who had always been excellent at analysis. But there was too much. The volume of data was unlike anything the bark and flint instruments of previous centuries had prepared her for. Her ease moved bewheel vies her steering imbu for the automated navigation system. The Viper veered. 17 feeds, she said to herself, to the cockpit, to the problem. There are 17 simultaneous... She stopped. She was not solving the problem. She was describing it. Those were different things. On the main monitors of the control room, the three frames appeared as three separate emergencies happening simultaneously. Prince Parker stood at the command balcony and watched all three of them with the expression of someone who had spent enough time in critical situations to know that the worst thing a commander could do in the first 10 seconds of a crisis was panic. He did not panic. He processed. He turned to the control room. "Everyone now," he said. Flat. Certain. The voice of someone who expected to be heard and was not interested in alternatives. "Ground team, address the frames." Princess Parker was already at the auxiliary terminal. She had been at the auxiliary terminal since. The launch. Clamps released. The specific, focused positioning of someone who had looked at the situation before it became a situation and had decided where she needed to be. Her hands moved across the terminal with the rapid, precise efficiency of someone who had been doing this for longer than the terminal had existed. "I'm rerouting backup stability code to the internal gyros," she said. "It'll reduce the spin on the Vanguard. It won't stop the Aegis's descent. That's a weight distribution issue, not a gyroscopic one." "I know," Prince said. "Rashim!" Rashim Parker was already on the radio. "Amin!" His voice had the specific, unusual quality of Rashim Parker being completely serious, which was a different register from his normal volume, but carried every bit of the same energy, just directed. "Your left thruster is running at 110%. Vent the auxiliary fuel cells on that side right now, or you are going to loop directly into a building." In the Vanguard's cockpit, Amin heard his brother's voice and found the auxiliary fuel cell control on his HUD. He vented. The left thruster equalized. The spin slowed, but it's not stopped, but slowed. The Vanguard's descent became a controlled tumble rather than an uncontrolled one, which was not good, but was better. "Again," Rashim called. His sons, Nusser, Nishim, Nimir, Shahim, were reading structural data at the 4 heavy mechanical telemetry stations with the synchronized focus that had always characterized them. Their voices came to Rashim in a continuous, overlapping stream of numbers. Heat displacement readings, thrust tolerances, frame stress indicators. He absorbed it all and translated it into the radio without missing a step. "Your center of mass is still high. Lower it, brother." "I am trying," Amin said. "Don't try. Do it. Come on." Amira Campbell looked at the descent vector calculations on her quantum telemetry desk and ran the numbers faster than the desk's display updated them. She looked at the Vanguard. She looked at her uncle's neural synchronization reading, still at 100%, which meant the machine was not the problem. She understood. "Uncle Amin," her voice came through his cockpit speakers with the sharp, certain quality it always carried. "Stop fighting the joysticks." You are. You have been since launch. The Vanguard mirrors your muscle memory. That's the whole point of the neural link. The machine doesn't need your hands. It needs your body. A pause. The specific pause of Amira Campbell deciding how much patience she was willing to invest in an explanation. Calm your heart rate. Drop your center of gravity. Lock into a stance. Amin was quiet for 2 seconds. In the cockpit, he let go of the control levers. He took one slow breath, the specific breath his training had always produced when the situation required everything to slow down before it could speed up. He let his body settle into the harness. His feet found their position. His weight dropped. The Marbu, the horse stance, the foundation from which everything else in his training had always proceeded. The Vanguard responded. The titanium legs shifted. Massive, precise. The 200-ton frame finding the same weight distribution his body was holding inside the cockpit. The thrusters equalized automatically. The spin stopped. The Vanguard's feet contacted the surface of a shattered plasma highway with a concussive impact that sent visible shockwaves through the surrounding infrastructure and held. From the control room, Nishim Parker read the structural data and looked at his father. Rashim looked at the monitor. There he is, Rashim said quietly. The first drone swarm arrived before Amin had fully registered that he was stable. They came from the Eastern Transit Corridor, dozens of them, compact and fast, the Rogue Network's forward unit testing the new variables that had appeared in their operational field. They moved with the coordinated intelligence of automated systems that had been running combat protocols long enough to have developed tactical memory. They targeted the Vanguard. Amin brought his arm up, the machine's arm responding to his intention with the neural link at full synchronization, and threw the first strike. It was too slow. The arm moved correctly, but the mass of it arrived a fraction of a second after his muscle memory expected. He had been throwing precise strikes for hundreds of years. The timing was in his body, at a level deeper than thought. And the timing was wrong. The strike missed. A drone slipped through and impacted the Vanguard's shoulder plating. The feedback came through the neural link as pressure, not damage to his body, but information about damage to the frame, translated into physical sensation by the interface. He registered it and adjusted. The mass has lag, he thought. I have to account for it. He tried again. This time, he initiated the strike a fraction of a second earlier, slightly before his instinct said to, accounting for the machine's weight on the path between intention and arrival. The chain punch landed. The kinetic impact of a 200-ton arm executing a Wing Chun centerline strike propagated through the drone cluster with the specific devastating efficiency of correct technique applied at a scale that technique had never been applied at before. Drones scattered. He adjusted his timing again, slightly earlier. The chain arrived precisely on target. He's found the rhythm, Nisa said at the telemetry station. Not to anyone specifically, just registering it. The solar plasma beam arrived with no warning. It came from the orbital mirrors. The beautiful, massive, reflective infrastructure of New Alexandria turned against itself, a concentrated column of thermal energy aimed at the civilian grid below. Amir Chambers saw it on his telemetry display 4 seconds before it fired. Grandma! His voice was precise, even at urgency, the specific quality of Amir Chambers under pressure, which was the same as Amir Chambers under any other condition, just faster. You're out of alignment by 14 degrees. The thermal bloom will reach the civilian grid below in 5 seconds if the Aegis doesn't intercept. In the Aegis cockpit, Mary Parker pulled at the heavy steering controls. The machine did not respond quickly enough. The Aegis had been built for holding, for receiving, for being exactly where it needed to be and staying there. It was not built for rapid repositioning. She pulled harder. The levers resisted. 3 seconds. She stopped pulling. She understood something, the same understanding that had arrived in the Vanguard, delivered through a different route. The machine needed her mind more than her hands. She closed her eyes. Guide my hands, she said. The same words she had spoken in the cockpit before launch. But different this time. Not a request for help with the controls. A release of the need to control at all. She felt the Aegis's internal shielding grid the way she felt spaces she had occupied across centuries. As a thing with its own presence, its own quality, its own relationship with the energy around it. She did not try to turn the machine. She expanded its energy barrier outward from the frame's current position, willing the defensive field to reach across the 14 degrees of misalignment rather than moving the frame to cover it. The golden barrier ignited, not from the Aegis's current position, from the space where it needed to be. The barrier expanded, and the frame's heavy arms were dragged into alignment by the field itself, the machine following the intention, rather than preceding it. 1 second. The beam hit the barrier. The feedback was immediate and total. White heat translated through the neural link into something that was not physical sensation, but was adjacent to it. The specific, overwhelming intensity of a system at its absolute limit. The barrier cracked, buckled. A sound came from Mary Parker that was not quite a cry, the involuntary vocalization of someone absorbing something that was testing the edge of what they could hold. She held it. The beam dispersed across the barrier surface. The civilian grid below remained intact. In the control room, the thermal bloom indicators on Amir's display dropped from critical to manageable. He let out one slow breath. Aegis barrier integrity dropping, but stable. he reported. Grandma, you held it. In the Aegis cockpit, Mary Parker opened her eyes. Her hands were trembling slightly on the control harness. The neural headband was warm against her forehead. She was breathing. Yes, she said, simply. Inside the Cyber Viper, Cassandra Brown was drowning, not in water, in data, 17 intrusion points, each generating its own cascade of alerts, each cascade generating secondary alerts, all of it compounding into a volume of information that her exceptional mind was processing and processing and processing, without being able to get ahead of it because more arrived as fast as she cleared it. Her hands were shaking. This was unfamiliar. Cassandra Brown's hands did not shake. She had been the steadiest person in every room she had ever occupied, across every era and every situation this world had produced for her. Her hands were shaking. Amira's voice cut through every alarm simultaneously. Cassandra! No preamble, no qualification. Stop trying to read all 17 feeds. The intrusion points are... Stop. I know what they are. Look at the root directory. That's it. That's the only thing on your screen right now. A pause. I'm isolating the core signature on the ground terminal. Amir is building the encryption rewrite. We are going to push it to your dashboard. All you have to do is catch it and execute. Cassandra stopped moving her hands. She looked at the HUD. She found the root directory. 17 feeds, 200 alerts, hundreds of cascading error messages. All of it still there. Still flashing. Still demanding. She ignored all of it. She looked at one thing. The root directory. The single point from which everything else in the network originated. At the telemetry desk, Amir Chambers built the encryption rewrite in the specific, focused way he did everything. Completely, precisely, with the full analytical capacity of the most exceptional mind in the Parker lineage, applied to a single clear problem. No wasted processing, no hedging, just the solution, built correctly, as fast as it could be built correctly. He pushed it to her dashboard. It appeared on the Cyber Viper's HUD as a single clean file in the root directory. Cassandra's hand stopped shaking. She reached for the execution key. She pressed it. The Cyber Viper's emerald sensor arrays lit across every joint simultaneously. The electronic warfare systems coming fully online in the specific way of a machine that had been waiting for exactly this input. The rewritten encryption code routed backward through the rogue network's data trail with the precise, devastating efficiency of a counter-signal that had been built to fit exactly the signature it was countering. The drone swarms across the skyline, dozens of them, still active, still moving, experienced simultaneous system interruption. They stopped. Not destroyed. Interrupted. Their local control signals cut, their coordination severed, their threat assessment protocol suspended. They drifted, unpowered, into the infrastructure of the city's upper grid where they would be recovered and analysed. The Cyber Viper's HUD shifted from red to a steady, quiet green. It worked, Cassandra said. Then, after a moment, tell Amir and Amira it worked. They can hear you, Amir's voice came back from the ground terminal. We're monitoring your cockpit audio. Good, Cassandra said. A pause. Thank you. The rogue network's elite forward unit withdrew. Not in defeat, with the specific, organised withdrawal of a system that had gathered the data it came to gather and was returning it to whatever intelligence had sent it. The drones that still functioned reassembled at the outer transit corridor and retreated in the direction of the orbital mirror infrastructure. The battle, the first battle, was over. The three frames stood on the shattered plasma highway in the neon-lit sky of New Alexandria. The Vanguard's armor plating was scuffed across the left shoulder. The Aegis's golden barrier had partially dissipated and would require time to regenerate. The Cyber Viper's systems were stable but running hot. All three pilots were breathing. They returned to the hangar one at a time, the Vanguard first, Amin guiding it through the landing sequence with the calibrated patience of someone who had just learned a new timing and was not yet comfortable enough to rush it. The Aegis second, Mary piloting with the steady, deliberate care of someone managing a system that had given everything it had and needed to be brought home carefully. The Cyber Viper last, Cassandra running quiet post-battle diagnostics, even as the frame descended, because that was Cassandra. The cockpit pods opened. The three pilots stepped out. Amin's tactical suit was venting residual heat. His hands were steady, steadier than they had been at launch. He looked at them. Mary's neural headband left a faint impression across her forehead. She descended from the Aegis's pilot elevator with the specific, grounded quality she brought to every difficult thing she had come through, not performing resilience, simply being it. Cassandra stepped out of the Cyber Viper and looked at the ground terminal, at Amir and Amira still at their desks. She did not say anything elaborate. She walked to them and placed a hand briefly on each of their shoulders, a gesture that, from Cassandra, carried the full weight of everything she would not say at length. Amira looked at the hand, then at Cassandra. You'd have gotten there, Amira said. In the specific, deflecting way she acknowledged things that mattered. Not as fast, Cassandra said. Amira said nothing further, but the thing behind her expression, the cold, precise exterior she maintained with the consistency of someone who had decided it was load-bearing, shifted fractionally. Rasheem Parker crossed the assembly floor and put both arms around his brother in the specific, whole-body way that Rasheem Parker expressed things he did not have words for. Amin received it with the quiet steadiness he received everything. "I heard your voice," Amin said. "I know you did," Rasheem said. "I am very loud. It is one of my most consistent qualities." His sons, at their telemetry stations, produced the collective near amusement they've always produced, invisible to everyone else, completely visible to anyone who knew them. Prince Parker came down from the command balcony. He walked across the assembly floor with the deliberate bearing of someone covering ground with intention. He stopped in front of Amin, at Mary, at Cassandra. He looked at all three of them. "You survived your controls," he said. "That was the first requirement. The second requirement is that you master them." He looked at the frames, at the scuffed Vanguard, at the Aegis's partially dissipated barrier, at the Cyber Viper's venting heat sinks. "We have work to do." "Yes," Amin said. Prince held his son's gaze for a moment. Then he looked at the GDC general, who had been standing at the balcony's edge through the entire return sequence. The general descended the stairs. "What you did today," the general said, "with no prior mecha combat experience and a first deployment against an active Sigma-level forward unit. There is no trained pilot in the GDC who has achieved equivalent results. Under equivalent conditions?" He paused. "But you also saw what Sigma's network can escalate to. The solar plasma beam was a fraction of their actual output capacity. The drone swarms were a reconnaissance unit, not a combat deployment." He looked at all 12 of them, at the pilots, at the ground team, at the family. "We want to give you everything we have, military training resources, advanced American weapons systems, direct partnership with the United States Military Command. You helped us today. We want to help you become completely unstoppable." Prince Parker looked at his family, at Mary, steadier than the situation required, as always, at Amin, already processing, already recalibrating timing in his mind, at Cassandra, quiet, present, at Princess, at Rasheem, at all of them, exhausted and capable and together in the specific way the Parker family had always been together, which was to say, completely. He looked back at the general. He extended his hand. The general took it. "You get us the resources," Prince said. "We will give you the results." A pause. His voice carried no warmth. It did not need to. "But understand clearly, this family does not answer to your command structure. We answer to our own. Your military supports us. We are not absorbed into it." The general nodded. Understood. Prince released the handshake. He looked at his family one more time. "Rest," he said, "but tomorrow we train properly, and the next time those frames go into the sky, they will perform at the standard this family maintains." He turned back toward the command balcony. No praise, no ceremony, just the absolute specific certainty that the standard would be met. Wish from Prince Parker was the same thing. End of Episode 5. Unsteady GIANTS パーカー一族Age of Synthetic Dawn の時代第5話不安定な巨人たち誰もこんな感覚だとは教えてくれなかった。発射チューブが3つのフレームを同時に飲み込んだ。ヴァンガード、イージス、サイバーバイパー。そして世界はレゲと草原と老いることのない彼のために設計されたが、200トンのものを操縦するよう求められたことのないシステムの特定の混乱した衝撃になった。ヴァンガードのコックピットの中で、パーカー・アミンは初めてニューラルリンクをフル展開で体験し、何かを理解することとそれを体験することは全く異なる知識のカテゴリーであることを明らかに理解した。コースが彼のように彼を打った。HUD が同時データで爆発した。高度読み取り、脅威ベクター、燃料セル圧力指標、構造完全性のパーセンテージ。すべてが一度に届き、すべてが優先度を要求し、何も待たなかった。手がコントロールレバーを見つけて引いた。そしてヴァンガードは応答したが、体が予想した方法とは違っててラグがあった。彼の意図とマシンの実行の間のわずかな一秒。200トンの金属がニューラルヘッドバンドを通じてが来る信号を信頼することを学ぶ特定の起源。十分だった。左スラスターが運命と異なる強度で発射した。ヴァンガードが回転し始めた。イージスの中でパーカー・メアリーは落ちていた。回転ではなく、ララフタ。白と今のフレームが早く落ちすぎていた。その巨大な重さが、シェア外フィート車のプラズマ助走高速道路に向けて引っ張っていた。消化が何の価値があるかを気にしない中立の冷たい近畿境で、操縦コントロールを引いた。マシンは重く強盗した。手をちぎってください、と彼女は言った。コックピットにではなく、より大きな何かに。また引いた。イージスはまた無事フィート落ちた。サイバーバイパーはプラズマ輸送高速道路に直接向かっていた。ブラウンカサンドラの HUD は時期の同時頻入点を示し、すべて赤で点滅し、すべてが独自の二次アラートカスケードを生成していた。羽目があちこちを働いていた。電子線コンソールに手が働いていた。走く精密に常に優れた分析屋の手、しかし多すぎた。時期のフィードと彼女は自分に言った。時期の同時、止まった。
問題を解決していなかった。それを説明していた。それらは違うことだった。キヨエンとロールルームのメインモニターで3つのフレームが同時に起きている3つの別リフトの緊急事態として現れた。パーカープリンスは視界バルコニーに戻って3つすべてを危機の最初の指名で、パニックになることはコマンダーができる最悪のことであることを知るのに、十分な事件重大な状況にいた誰かの表現で見えた。パニックにならなかった。処理した。グラウンドチームに背いた。全員暇と彼は言った。が彼らに確実に聞かれることを期待して代替案に興味がない誰かの声で、グラウンドチーム、フレームに対処しろ。パーカープリンセスはすでに補助ターミナルにいた。状況が状況になる前に状況を見て、どこにいる必要があるかを決めた誰かの特定の集中した位置づけで、手がターミナルを渡って急速かつ正確な効率型で開いた。バックアップ安定化コードを内部ジャイロに再ルーティングしている。ヴァンガードのスピンを減らす。エイゼスの上ジャハシフェラネイソーハジョンノヴォルピーの問題であり、ジャイロスコープの問題ではない。分かっているとパーカープリンスは言った。ラシーム。パーカー・ラシームはすでに無限にいた。アミン。彼の声はパーカー・ラシームが完全に真剣になっている時の特定のめぜざしい橋を持っていた。破格スラスターが 100% で動いている。今すぐその側の補助燃料セルを廃棄しなければ獣に直接ループする。ヴァンガードのコックピットでパーカー・アミンは無の声を聞いて HUD の補助燃料セルのコントロールを目につけた。廃棄した。サクスラスターが均等化した。スピンが遅くなった。止まらなかったが遅くなった。ヴァンガードの強化は制御不能な転落ではなく制御された転落になった。また、とパーカー・ラシームは呼んだ。鈴子たち、パーカーにシール、パーカーにシーム、パーカーにもパーラーシャヒムハズ、強いジョンゲギテラムトリスデシオン構造データを読んでいた。彼らの声がパーカー・ラシームに数字の継続的な重なり合うストリームで届いた。卓量の中心がまだ高い。下げろ、兄弟。キャンベル・アミラは量子テレメトリデスクの強化ベクター計算を見て、デスクのディスプレイが更新するより早く数字を実行した。ヴァンガードをメンティと、主婦のニューラル動機読み取りをヘネタレ待った100%。マシンは問題ではなかった。理解した。アミのじさん、彼女の声目はいつも運ぶスルボク、確実な味でコツクピットスピーカーを通じてきた。ジョイスティックと戦うのをやめて。しようとしていない。している。発射から。ヴァンガードはあなたの筋熟拒否を反応する。それがニューラルリンクの要点だ。マシンはあなたの手を必要としていない。体を必要としている。一時停止。心拍数を落ち着かせて、中心を下げて、スタンスに固定して、パーカー・アミンはコントロールレバーを外した。一つのゆっくりした席を取った。マブ、馬のスタンス、基盤、ヴァンガードが応答した。チタンカウキーの足がシフトした。巨大で、制約で、200トンのフレームがコツクピットの内毛で保持している同じ中量分配を身につけて、スラスターが自動的に均等化した。スピンが止まった。コントロールルームからパーカー・ニシームは構造データを読んで拍を見にた。パーカー・ラシームはモニターを見にた。そこにいると彼は静かに寄った。最初のドローン軍はパーカー・アミンが安定していることを完全に確認する前に到着した。彼は最初のストライクを上げた。マシンのバヌがニューラルリンクで 0% 同期して彼の意図に応答して、そしてそれを投げた。高すぎた。マシンの治療のラグ。筋肉苦強がやるより少し早くすとライクを開始しなければならないと気づいた。もう一度しみた。今度は少し早く開始した。マシンの重さを考慮してチェーンパンチが着地した。200トンのアームがウィングチュンのセンターラインストライクを実行する運動型将棋が正しい技術が使用された規模で船舶した。ドローンが散乱した。タイミングをまた調整した。わずかに早く。チェーンは正確に標的に届いた。彼はリズムを身につけたとパーカーにシールはテレメトリステーションで言った。ソーラープラズマビームは警告なしに到着した。起動ミラーから自分自身に向けられたニューアレクサンドリアの美しい巨大な反射インフラ、下の民間グリッドを狙った集中した熱エネルギーの州。チェンバース・アメアは発射する4秒前にテレメトリディスプレイでそれを J に見た。おばあちゃん。彼の声は緊急でも正確だった。緊急化のチェンバース・アメアの特定のヘミ、他のどんな条件下でも同じ。趣旨とずれている。無秒以内にイージスが遮断しなければ、熱ブルームが下の民間グリッドに届く。イージスのコックピットで、パーカー・メアリーは重い操縦コントロールを引いた。 3秒。引くのをやめた。マシンは彼女の手より心が必要だと理解した。気を閉じた。手をちぎいてください。彼女はイージスの内部シールドグリッドを何世紀にもわたって占有してきた空間を感じる方法で感じた。マシンを回そうとしなかった。フレームの現在位置からエネルギーバリアを外側に拡大させ、重いバルを制御させながら、キンメルのバリアが点灯した。ビームがバリアに当たった。フィードバックはヒューサで全体的だったシュルメジがニューラルリンクを通じて身体感覚に隣接するものに翻訳された。バリアが割れた。パーカーメアリーから本が出た。保持できるものの発しをテストする何かを吸収している誰かの不思議のファッション。ビーム幅を落ちした。ビームがバリアの業務に分散した。民間グリッドは無常のままだった。イージスのバリア完全性は下がっているが安定とチェンバース・アメアは報告した。おばあちゃん、保持した。はいとパーカー・メアリーは言った。単純に。サイバーバイパーの中でブラウン・カサンドラはデータに汚れていた。時期の侵入点、それぞれが独自のアラートカスケードを生成し、
すべてが複固して、彼女の映画的な心場が処理し続けているが、追いつけない量に手が震えていた。馴染みのない感覚だった。ブラウン・カサンドラの手は震えない。キャンベル・アミラの声がすべてのアラームを同時に切った。カサンドラ、前の気なし。時期のフィードすべてを読もうとするのをやめて。侵入点派、やめて。わかっている。ルートディレクトリを見にて。それだけ。今グラウンドターミナルでコアシグネチャーを分離している。アメアが暗号化の書き換えを構築している。あなたのダッシュボードに送信する。あなたはそれをキャッチして実行するだけ。ブラウン・カサンドラは手を染めた。一つのことを命じた。ルートディレクトリ。チェンバース・アメアは暗号化の書き換えを構築した。完全に、正確に、パーカー家族の系統で最も例外的な心が単一の明確な問題に使用されて、無駄な処理なし、解決策だけ正しく構築できる速さで、彼女のダッシュボードに送信した。ブラウン・カサンドラの手が震えを止めた。思考キーに手を伸ばした。押した。サイバーバイパーのエメラルドセンサー、アレイがすべてのジョイントにわたって同時に点灯した。書き換えられた暗号化コードがローグネットワークので、タトレールを通じて下方向にルーティングされた。正確な、壊滅な効率性で、スカイラインにわたるドローンの群れが同時システム中断を経験した。停止した。サイバーバイパーの HUD が悪から安定した静かな基地にシフトした。うまくいったとブラウン・カサンドラは言った。しばらくして、アメアとアミラにうまくいったと伝えて、聞こえていると、チェンバース・アメアの声が戻ってきた。コックピットのオーディオを検視している。良いとブラウン・カサンドラは言った。一時停止。ありがとう。3人のパイロットが出てきた。ブラウン・カサンドラはグラウンドターミナルに歩いた。チェンバース・アメアとキャンベル・アミラのところへ。彼女は手をこの間に短く置いた。ブラウン・カサンドラからそれは長くやわないすべてのもみを運んだ。キャンベル・アミラは手を見た。それからブラウン・カサンドラを見た。自分でそこに到達していたとキャンベル・アミラは言った。それほどすくはない。とブラウン・カサンドラ・ハイアンスとキャンベル・アミラはそれ以上何も言わなかった。しかし、彼女の表現の後ろのものを常に維持してきた冷たく精密な外見がわずかにシフトした。パーカー・プリンスはチーゲバルコニーから下りてきた。3人全員を引きた。コントロールを生き延びたと彼は祈った。それが最初の要件だった。2番目の要件はそれをマスターすることだ。フレームを見た。傷ついたヴァンガード、イージスの部分的に所産したバリア、サイバーバイパーの破棄する熱シンクを。仕事がある。はいとパーカー・アミンは言った。パーカー・プリンスは息子の自戦を保持した。それから GDC 将軍を目にた。機関シーケンス全体を通じてバルコニーの葉に乗っていた。将軍がし降りてきた。今日あなたたちがしたことを。事前のメカ戦闘経験なしに、シグマレベルのアクティブな戦線部隊に対する初回展開で、GDC に同等の条件下で同等の結果を達成した訓練されたパイロットはいない。維持停止した。しかし、シグマのネットワークが何時にエスカレートできるかも目にた。ソーラープラズマビームは実際の処理容量のほんの一部だった。ドローン軍は審査部隊であり、戦闘展開ではなかった。全員を目にた。私たちが持っているすべてを提供したい。軍事訓練リソース、高度なアメリカの病気システム、
米国軍事司令部との주제부터는出人類受けてくれた。あなたたちを軍船に手がつけられなくなるよう助けたい。パーカープリンスは家族を念じた。パーカーメアリーを、パーカーアミンを、ブラウンカサンドラを、全員を卑下して有能で一緒に、将軍に持った。手を伸ばした。将軍が握った。リソースを提供しろとパーカープリンスは言った。私たちは結果を提供する。しかし、明確に理解しろ。この家族はあなたのコマンド構造に応えない。自分たち自身のものに応える。あなたの君が私たちを資源する。私たちはそれに吸収されない。握手を戻した。家族を一度目見た。休めと彼は言った。と駆けつけてに訓練する。そして次にフレームが空に上がるとき、この数が維持する基準で実行する。チーゲバルコニーに踊った。賞賛なし、視点なし。ただ、その基準が満たされるという絶対的で特定の確信。パーカープリンスからそれは同じことだった。第5話版終わり。不安定な巨人たち。